Hi, this is Latasha Renee, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Unmuted Conversations podcast. I am so excited to be with you on tonight for yet another Unmuted Conversation. And tonight, I have an amazing guest. She is all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I cannot wait to introduce her to you, to everyone who's listening. So thank you so much for tuning in on tonight. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for continuing to support me here at the Unmuted Conversations podcast, where we are obsessed with helping women unmute their message and share their story with the world. So tonight, we have a special guest on tonight who will be unmuting her message, sharing her story with our part of the world. Her name is Amber Johnson. Like I said, she is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She is a podcaster, she is a blogger, and she is also a caregiver. So tonight's episode is called In Sickness and in Health, A Daughter's Pledge. So tonight, Amber is going to be sharing her story as being a caregiver for her father. But I'm not going to get too far into it. I'm going to let her tell her own story. So if you all could just welcome Amber to the stage on tonight. She is with
Hey,
us. Hey, Amber.
hey,
How are you?
good. How you doing?
I'm good, girl. So I am ready to jump right into our conversation on tonight. First want to allow you the space to introduce yourself, and then what I want you to do once you've introduced yourself to our audience, I want you to share your experience, how you became a caregiver for your father, and just give us some background information on that.
Hi, yo. Like she said, my name is Amber, and I am a caregiver. I'm a blogger. I'm a podcaster. My platform is called B Channel, which stands for blessing, edifying, and encouraging others to live their best lives. And my mission is to spread love, light, and hope with every post. I like to just talk about faith, caregiving content, relationships. So all that good stuff is what you'll
Yeah.
find over there. And as far as the caregiving journey is concerned, it's been a hot minute for us, but he like originally somewhere around 2012, 2013 started having these mini strokes, which they call TIAs, also known as a transient ischemic attack. So he had these little strokes, and then he got better. He was recovering well, he was
Mhm.
walking again, and everything like that, and his speech was getting better. And then in August of 2017, he got hit by a car.
Oh goodness.
So as a result of that, he had to have like surgery
Mhm.
to recover. And when you're on blood thinners, they want to take you off the blood thinner for surgery so you don't bleed out. So
Right.
that caused another stroke, which caused left-sided weakness. And then now we're in a state where he's bedridden. So it's like it's a different experience than before, because before he was able to do all of those things.
Mhm.
But for the past 7 years, it's going on 7 years here in August that we've been, helping him in as far as this journey is concerned. And he's come a long way, because he started out when he had a trach, he had to have
Oh,
that in his neck, and my mama had to clean that, and that was
wow.
a lot. And
Yeah.
sometimes he would get infections, and you have to learn how to do the IV medicine at home, because they'll
Mhm.
help you. They'll come out
Yeah.
and help you learn how to do that. And then they had an even easier way. And I was like, this is great. I was so happy when they told us like an easier way. It's this little thing called a grenade, and you just do it like that, versus having a bag to hang and you have to figure it out how many drops.
Oh goodness.
So
Yeah.
it was just so many different things along the way that we had to learn as a team, because me and my mom, we take care of him together.
Okay.
And the way he is right now is, he can't, toilet himself, he can't feed himself, he
Mhm.
can't walk, he can't talk, but he just
Mhm.
has to have more patience, you know, and we have to have patience on our side as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, we'll ask him to spell things if we need to. And he's getting very good at that. He's very good at spelling things, Neil. He
Yeah.
knows that. And, you know, it's a lot of little things that we try to do, like try to give him a choice. What do you want to
Mhm.
watch on TV? Because
Yeah.
it's very little that he can decide. So, oh, what do you want to watch? That's something. So it feels like he has to
Yeah.
have control.
Yeah.
And also just like reorienting him throughout the day, about what's going on, like what we're doing, if we're
Mhm.
gonna leave the room or leave the floor, like telling them what the weather is, the day is, um,
Yeah.
the time of day, you
Okay.
know, with the all those types of things, or if it's a holiday or somebody's birthday, you know, just trying to keep them updated about what's going on, current events in life and stuff like that. So it's so many different things that we have to really try to focus on, and
Yeah.
it's it's mind-boggling, but
Yeah.
you know, I'll
Wow.
stop there for now.
Did you already live with your dad before you became his caregiver, or did you move, like, stop your life and then move in with your parents?
I was in college for like 4 years, and
Okay.
then after that, like, I was living in the dorms, right?
Okay.
And then, like, a little bit after I got back, he started having the strokes.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of it, I feel like it was the aftermath of trying to take care of my grandmother, who
Okay.
also had a stroke.
Wow. Okay.
And it was just he was trying to do so much
Mm.
because he was a businessman. He had his own music school. He
Oh,
was an
wow.
organist at church, you
Mhm.
know. So
Mhm.
he was very like heavily involved in things like that. Like he was very you know, like determined to
Yeah.
do certain things. Like, and that spirit never left him. Very right up until when he couldn't walk anymore, that
Yeah.
spirit never left him, because it was times where we tried to keep him in the house and
Mm.
we couldn't do it. It was crazy because we had to hide shoes.
Oh
And we
gosh.
tried to hide shoes so he couldn't go out without
Yeah.
us knowing, because he
Yeah.
would go out early in the morning.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then we was like, okay. And then he found somehow and then got out that day and he was going to the track. So like he'll have something logical in mind, like, oh, I'm gonna go to the track or I'm gonna go get some
Mhm.
breakfast. That was his MO. But then that day it just went left. So that's
Wow.
kind of how we got where we are.
Got you. So,
Mhm.
what was your initial thoughts when you realized that you were going to become the caregiver? Because I'm sure, like, if you went off to college and then you come home, like, maybe you're thinking you're getting ready to be into your career. I don't, depending on what your major was in college, but you're like, oh, I'm going to be into my career. I'm going to live my life. But then all of a sudden, your dad gets sick, and now you have to become, or you choose to become a caregiver for him. What was your initial thoughts? Were you, um, what were you thinking? Because I'm sure a lot of things probably go through your mind. Do you feel like overwhelmed? Are you frustrated? Or what were your thoughts?
Mm, so it's very complicated because as far as college was concerned, I had a whole, you know, experience with that, a whole ordeal with that I really was not prepared for how that ended. And
Oh,
it didn't really work out for me because guess what? Guess what, everybody? I went to school for nursing, but that didn't work out.
wow, wow,
But it was like it was okay because I learned the things that I needed to learn to help
yeah,
him. And
yes,
the instructor that I had, she had doubted me. And the very thing that she doubted me about, y'all, is the thing that I'm helping with most, like now.
wow.
That's like one of the things I have to do every day. I have to
That
help him with a feeding tube. And that is what she said I was just not that great at, because it's like, you know
wow,
how people doubt you and they just be like, oh, you
yeah.
got to start over, or you got to take some
Mm-hmm,
more classes. You're
mm-hmm.
not experienced enough. So
Look at
don't.
God. Look at
Exactly.
God.
So when somebody doubt y'all, just wait and see.
Yes.
Just wait and see to the next
Mm.
season.
Wow, wow. Wow, that is amazing. First of all, it's amazing to me how you went to school for nursing, and then now you're in the field, just in a different capacity, but you are nursing your dad, like, back to health and, like, assisting him. That is, God does all things well. Listen,
Yeah,
we know.
and as
Whew,
far as what you said, right, about how did I feel like God was already trying to prepare me,
yeah, absolutely.
because like it was a season of caregiving for my family because
Mm.
my mom, she had to help with my grandmother. Like
Okay.
we went over there to her house to help with her because he was sleeping over there trying to take care of her and trying to
Wow.
take care of things that she had going on as far as her household was concerned, and then trying to take care of his business, and then trying to take care of
Yeah.
us. So
Wow.
it's like it when before he got sick, we was taking care of her. You know, we
Wow.
were helping you know, as best we could. You know, my
Yeah.
mom would bring meals over there. She would help, you know, take care of her, change her, and all that. So it's
Yeah.
like it was already kind of ingrained in me that this is what you do. You know, that's the example that I saw. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, and it's like, what do? You don't abandon somebody.
Right.
Like, you
Right.
know, everybody can't, you know, they it's just not in them. And it's like it's not easy.
Yeah.
But me personally being the only child and a daddy's girl, it's like, okay, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
So it's
not like
kind of
I'm
like
like,
a
oh my
no-brainer for
god.
you. Like you're definitely, you knew you were going to step up and take care of your dad. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love my daddy so much. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's one of them things too. Like they did what they had to do for you. Cause I remember how it was with me. He was literally getting his master's and he would take me to class.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he would take me everywhere with him, like all the time when he was teaching and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like we have a bond.
Hmm.
And so when you have a bond with somebody and you care about that person, you're not just gonna be like, oh well.
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
yeah, because I was working. Like I was working since I was 17. And then like in 2020, I had stopped because it was becoming too much because I couldn't go to work because it was very labor intensive. When you know when you
Hmm.
stop things, it's very labor intensive.
Oh, yeah.
I was working at like a beer and wine place and you had to stop and ring people up and just always be multitasking, which again prepared me for this because
Absolutely.
that was all that was
Hmm.
multitasking and wearing several hats.
Hmm. Right. Right. Wow.
So, you
Did,
know,
did the caregiving role bring you and your dad closer? Or because you know how sometimes when you switch roles and you become a caregiver, it's like they see you as the caregiver, the nurse, and not necessarily the daughter, or you see him as a patient and not the father. I've talked to
mm,
people who are in caregiver roles and they experience that. So has that been your experience too when it comes to taking care of your dad?
I feel like it's work to remember. Like you
Mm.
have to be intentional about remembering, like, okay, well, this is my dad. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I don't have
Yeah,
to like ignore the elephant in the room. I can ask him how he's feeling. I
yeah,
can you know, try to spend some time with him the best I can. And strokes, just to make people aware of strokes also, AFib is a factor when people have strokes. So you have to check with your doctor in terms of like making sure that you check out your heart to make sure
oh
that you
wow,
don't have an arrhythmia, because AFib is an irregular heartbeat, and that's
yeah,
something that contributed to his experience as well. So it's
wow,
just one of those things where it's like you just have to, it's so many things to think about.
yeah,
So I'm the daughter and I'm the caregiver, but you got to remember like when to be the daughter. And
yeah,
also it can get complicated because then you start to feel like you're the parent because the
mhm,
person regresses as far as the stroke is taking away some of those things like their judgment
right,
and their sensibility about things. Like they don't have, like he has short-term memory loss.
okay,
So it's like I could tell him something and then he won't remember.
yeah,
So it's so many different things. So it's kind of hard to answer that question sometimes. It's like, oh, okay, I try to spend time. I try to make time for that emotional side of him,
right,
and
right,
also take care of his spiritual side. You know, tell him that God loves him. You know, put on a bide overnight to keep him company so he don't get anxious, and just it's just it's so hard because you get caught up sometime in doing what you have to do for the person. So you
yeah,
have to really be intentional. That's the best.
yeah.
That's the best way to put that.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this, Amber. How do you take care of yourself? Because I know you spend a lot of time taking care of your dad and being the caregiver, but what kind of self care do you do to make sure that Amber is okay? Because I think our listeners would probably need to know that as well. Because sometimes we get into that caregiver road and we're doing, or we're serving, and with gladness, with gratitude, with honor. It's like an honor to serve your parents. But at the same time, you have emotional needs, spiritual needs, mental needs. What do you do to take care of self, to make sure that you're okay?
So this is another toughie because it's like sometimes you don't even feel like getting up, to be completely
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah,
And you have to like take that time, like you said, to fill your cup spiritually. Have
yeah,
that quiet time with God, read your word, put on the praise and worship music,
yeah,
have the jam session in the bathroom with Alexa.
yeah.
Make time to be with my mom and like take time with her, but like just the family time is important to take care of yourself because you need that relational time, you need that spiritual time, you need that time to talk to somebody like a therapist to get work on your emotions
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
mental state.
yeah.
You have to make time to go out,
Mm-hmm.
and which can be hard sometimes as a
Mm-hmm.
caregiver because it's not that you don't want to, you just don't have the energy all the time or
Yeah,
anyone to go out with because you don't want to always go out alone. But
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I'll make myself, but it's like it's an act of Congress sometimes. It's like Mount Everest to make myself get outside.
I understand.
And
Yeah,
you know sometimes it's like it's a lot. It takes a lot of mental energy just to do a lot of things, and you have to like just keep on reminding yourself, you know what, I can't be here for him. I'm gonna pass out looking for rice if I don't do some of these things that really matter.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like I
Right.
I I just I tried. Like today I did a stretch and I was like, "Ooh, that felt good."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's so important that you bring that up because, and it, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be huge things. It could be, like you said, a jam session with Alexa in the bathroom. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a massage and spending hundreds of dollars. But I do think it's very important that we let our listeners know that it's important to take care of self. Whether that looks like, like you said, having a therapist where you can talk through your emotions because being a caregiver for another, especially an adult, it can wear on you. It can cause burnout. It can cause frustration. It can cause challenges. Sometimes it also affects your social life because think about it. You may a lot of times caregivers they miss out on a lot of things with their friends or with.
Girl.
So let's talk about that. Like, what is that? What advice do you give to someone who's struggling? Like, yo, I got to take care of my dad, but I'm missing my best friend's graduation, or like the social aspect, because that's important too. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Like I feel like it's more of a virtual community for me, to be completely honest, at this point in
Yeah,
life. I wish that I had those interactions with my friends more, like people from college and people from high school, but
yeah,
it's also one of those things where like you can't force things.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like I'm learning to just take my moments. Like
Yeah,
whenever I get an opportunity to do something, I can do it, but also just have to be aware that everybody won't understand. And it's okay. It's not bad. They just don't have the wherewithal to understand what's going on, because sometimes you can't understand until you're in it.
that's absolutely.
Unless you're in something, you will
Yeah,
not get it, and you'll understand why I'm sacrificing, you feel like I'm missing out, or I should be traveling, I should be doing this.
right.
People have their opinions about it. Sometimes that can be isolating. To be
Yeah,
completely honest, it can be a
yeah,
very lonely time.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's actually good to point out because you know what? A lot of times we say this: we only have one dad, we only have one father, and these are moments that you won't get back. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So just knowing that you're spending the time with your father in whatever capacity that you can, and having mature people around you to say, I know you couldn't come out to dinner with us because you're tending to this, and not cause a rift in relationship. So I think that's very important too. So to have that balance, knowing that sometimes I may need to take some time to myself, but then also I have a responsibility to take care of my father. So I think that's actually a good point that you raised. I'm so glad that you did that, that you said that rather. Do you feel like you have a pretty good support system as far as people that helps you personally and with your father?
I would say I'm in a phase where I feel like I'm building my team because I think that everybody needs to have a team, like people that they can count on. And it takes time. So if
Yeah.
anybody's out there like me and you're struggling, you don't even have to be a caregiver. You can just be struggling to make those connections. Don't give up on the process. Just keep trying to make
Yeah.
connections. It's kind of like fishing. I like to say, but any type of connections you're trying to make, you just sitting there and whatever is going to bite that's right for you,
Yep. Yep.
that's the connection you want. But if it's not right, throw it back. But it's like
Mm.
it's just one of them things where you have
Yeah.
to just understand where people are,
Yeah.
have grace for that as
Yes.
far as making the connections and
Yeah.
like just building your community. It takes work. It takes
It does.
intentionality.
It does.
And
It does.
sometimes you won't be the one initiating. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's like it's really really complicated though, because it's like I have the therapist. I just started seeing a therapist. So yeah, hashtag therapy and theology, y'all. Therapy and
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
Um, just of course my mom, like we talk about everything. We laugh, we cry.
Yeah.
Um, just like it's certain people that I know I can like say something to, but it's like it's not as robust as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because it's something I'm learning. Let me just share something with y'all. This is so pivotal. Stop expecting people to be like you and
Exactly.
people to be like God, because you're going to get disappointed
Absolutely.
every single time. So when you learn that, you can harness more joy because you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm letting them off the hook. They're not God. They're not me. It doesn't mean that I'm better or they're worse or I'm worse. It's just different. We
Yeah.
operate differently.
Yep. Yeah.
And when you can understand where people are coming from, you have more grace. Like, oh, they can't handle this heaviness. Let me take this somewhere else. Oh, they
Yeah.
can only handle a cordial conversation. Let me come over here for
That's
that.
good.
But
That's
it's just one of them things. Like, you just got to keep on trying. That's all you can do.
That is so good that you brought that up. And, not to get off topic, but I think it's really, really important that you said that, because I just had a conversation with one of my really good friends and we talked about that. We talked about how there's certain things you can go to certain friends for. There's certain things, like if I'm having a bad day and I'm just crying and certain people I'm not going to call because they don't have the capacity to handle it, because either they see me as a leader or they see me as someone, a mentor or something like that, so they can't handle the unfiltered version of me, or the person, you know what I mean.
The
So I
unmuted
think it's
version.
the unmuted.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it's so important that you said that, because you have to know your community, about know who labors among you. You have to know who's in your circle, so that when you're
Hmm.
feeling burnt out or you're feeling frustrated or it becomes challenging, you know who you can go to and be your unmuted self and say, you know what, I love my dad, but he's getting on my nerves today. And then not judge you and say you're a bad caregiver. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's the
Because we're all
realness of it.
humans.
Exactly.
Like that's
Exactly.
the thing. Like we're human beings, not human
Yeah.
doings. And
Yes.
that's why recently I've been posting more about the caregiving journey. Like, sometimes you do want to scream, but you gotta
Yeah.
ground yourself in gratitude.
Yeah.
You gotta say some people don't have their daddy. Some people never
Yeah.
met them. You know, some people they wish they could hug their daddy. They wish they
Yeah.
could take care of him.
Exactly.
So that's when I have to kind of bring myself back from the edge and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
yes, he called
Yes.
me 20 times in the last 5 minutes, but he's still my daddy. I'm not throwing him away.
And you're still able to hear his voice, hear him call you, whereas some people can't. So I think
Exactly.
I think to anyone who's listening, who's in the caregiver role, either by choice or by force, they're in the caregiver role. I think that it's so good that we do, let them know that gratitude is something that you do have to practice, because like you said, our parents aren't always here. Some people don't have their, like, I lost my father at the beginning of this year, and so everyone doesn't have
Sorry.
that. But at the same time, I also want to give space for people who, to be human. I do want them to have space to say, oh my God, he's calling me 20 times. But on the flip side, still know that I'm glad my dad is here and I can still hear his voice. But in this
Yeah.
moment right here, I'm frustrated, and I want people to know that that's a real thing. Those are real emotions, but also, to have that support system or have someone they can call, or whether it's, go in their closet, their prayer closet, and talk to the Lord, or their therapist, or whomever, because I believe that even in the caregiver role, you also have to take care of your own mental health, your own well-being, because like you said earlier, you cannot pour from an empty cup. It just will not work. You're gonna
Yes.
have burnout. You're gonna and then you may get to the point where you're taking your frustration out on the patient, and we don't ever want that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
so that's why I just spend as much time as I can, take my little devotional snacks throughout the day. That's what I like to call it now.
yeah,
It's like a little moment. Maybe I go in the bathroom, put on a little gospel for 5 seconds, and
yeah.
you're like, okay, that's
hmm
have my little time out basically. And
But
just
but it works for you. Listen, you
yeah,
have to do what
or
works.
just or I just say, like I was saying on the video I posted recently, I was like, I just say, my daddy loves me so much. He just can't contain it. And I was like, to some people that might sound delusional, but that's
No.
how I work through it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, he loves me so much and he knows that he could call me.
Yeah.
He knows that.
Listen. Wow. Wow. Listen, when you think about that from a spiritual standpoint, aren't
Mhm.
we the same way with our Father? Like, I
Yes.
know I can call on my Father anytime and He will answer. So, think about it. He's like,
Yes.
that's how you kind of have to get through those moments. Like, He know I'm going to show up for Him, just like I know the Lord, my Father in heaven, is going to show up for me. So,
Right.
listen, my God,
Yes.
today. Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
I was talking to a friend about another podcast I was on, and she said that's what she got from it too, is the connection that we have with our Heavenly Father. It's
Yes.
the same way. So if you can connect with God that way and understand Him in that fatherly, framework, then you're like,
Yes.
okay, well, this is my earthly father, and if I could do a fraction of what
Mm-hmm.
I am, if what God has given me, then that
Mm-hmm.
would be it's worth it to try, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is so amazing what you're doing. And I know for you, you just like, oh, it's my reasonable service. It's what I do. But what you're doing is an act of service, it's an act of worship. And I think that I wanted to bring some light to that on our podcast tonight, just to let people know that they're not alone. Because sometimes it can be a lonely journey. And so, other people who are listening, who are tuning in tonight, who may be caregivers, and they may be frustrated or don't have the support, or not sure what to do, because when you think about it, sometimes as a caregiver you have to navigate the healthcare system, trying to make best
Okay.
decisions for your whether it's your father, whomever.
Yes.
Like, that can be challenging as well, especially if you're the power of attorney. So it's so many things, so many levels of care, so many things, that nuances that can be frustrating. And so we just wanted to shed
Yes.
a light on that tonight. We wanted you to share your story and let people know that they're not alone. Let people know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Let them know that even in the midst of this hard thing, that God is with them. That even if they continue just to show gratitude, that they can get through those tough moments, and they don't have to be burnt out, because they can also practice some self care. So I just wanted to really, really share that with our audience on tonight. And before we go, I'm going to open it up for you to just kind of share any last thoughts that you may have to someone who's listening, who maybe in the beginning stages of caregiving, or even if they've been doing it for a while. Offer some type of encouragement or any parting words that you can offer that I may not be able to, because I'm not an active caregiver right now, but you are, so you have a level of understanding that they need tonight.
Yeah, so to anybody out there that's on this caregiving journey, first of all, kudos to you for showing up and keep showing up. That's it's a daily process. You got to keep taking it one day at a time. Give
Yes.
yourself grace. Like even with the sleep schedule, I had to learn to give myself grace because I feel like I'm like a third shift worker. That's pretty
Wow.
much how I sleep.
Yeah.
So you might be sleeping in the morning and
Yeah.
getting up in the afternoon. That's life. Like as a caregiver, just like knowing that you have to learn how to adapt, how to flow, or like, think about like what's happening in your day and how can you manage to have some moments for yourself. So time management is very key. Just like you said earlier about the social work aspect in terms of having to call around places, yes, you're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Make sure that the person has the supplies, take inventory of what you need, make sure you have what you need to help the person. Write things down as you go about your day so you don't forget what you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Document, that's very
Yeah.
important because otherwise you'll be like, oh, did I do that?
Right.
So you find yourself really kind of forgetful, and scatterbrained a little bit. So it's just so important to just remember those types of things, and also find support groups, even if it's an online support group. Like Facebook has a great stroke caregivers support group. So you can talk about what's going on with your stroke survivor, what's going on as a caregiver, how you're feeling. Just and even if you can find something in person, that'd be great. But if virtual is the thing you can do, that's awesome as well. Like I said, therapy, journaling, get in your word, stay in there, pray all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just find people that you can confide in. That's very important.
Yeah.
And just know that you're not alone on the journey. Like, and for the people that can support or that want to support the caregiver, understand where the person is, have empathy and compassion for that.
Yeah.
So if they can't go out, maybe bring them something.
Yeah.
Drop it at the door. You don't even have to come
Yeah.
inside. Offer to sit with the person for an hour. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to get involved or do anything grandiose. Just sit with the person for hours so they can get out. Maybe send them a text, a phone call every now and then. How are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah.
How's your loved one? How are they? Those types of things. Check in with the people that are doing it. It's so important for everybody in the process. The caregiver, the person you're taking care of, everybody to feel seen and known and loved
Yeah.
and heard.
Yeah.
So just to check in with each other, because it can be very lonely and isolating. If you don't hear from somebody, check on them. Don't just assume everything's a-okay because you haven't heard from them. Check
Yeah.
on your people,
Exactly.
because you don't know what's going on in their lives, and it's a lot. It can get heavy. So everybody, just check on somebody. Make somebody feel seen, known, loved, and heard, and just let's take care of each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that on tonight. So, whether you're a caregiver or you are a friend of a caregiver, she gave some good information on tonight. I'm really grasping that what you just said because I'm going to be more mindful of that as well, reaching out to those people and even in my own life who I know that are, in caregiving roles and just checking in. Hey, do you want me to bring you something? I think that was really good. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Just not assuming that all is well or just because they seem to be okay, but just really just making a better effort of checking in. So, Amber, thank you so much for bringing that up, bringing that to our attention. And I also want you to let people know if someone is watching tonight and they have more questions for you or want to join that support group that you mentioned on Facebook and want to find it, how can people reach out to you? If you can just give maybe like your social media handle so that people can reach out to you for additional support if needed.
Yes, my handle is B Channel 27 pretty much everywhere, or is B E channel. You could type in any one of those, either of those, and you can find me. But B Channel 27 is your best bet. I pretty much have that as my handle everywhere.
Awesome, awesome. So it's on the screen for you guys. That's BEECHANNEL 27 for those who may be listening to the audio version of this. You can reach out to Amber. She is on all social media platforms. So if you are not on Facebook, catch her on YouTube. If you ain't on YouTube, catch her on Instagram. She is everywhere. Google her, you will find her. So I'm so glad that she joined us tonight on the Unmuted Conversations podcast. Again, we are on Instagram as well at unmuted_conversations. We are also on Spotify and YouTube at Unmuted Conversations. If for some reason you need to reach out to us here at the Unmuted Conversations podcast, please feel free to send us an email. We are available at unmutedconversations@gmail.com. If you are interested in being a guest on our show, if you are ready to unmute your message and share your story with the world, feel free to send us an email so that we can kind of talk and see if we're a good fit for each other. I would love to have you on our show. So just be on the lookout for new and exciting things from the Unmuted Conversations podcast. I'm so excited for the support. I say this all the time. Y'all know how to make a girl feel real, real happy and real, real loved. So thank you so, so much for your support. Thank you for tuning in on tonight for our amazing conversation tonight with Miss Amber Jones, hailing all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I'm so glad that she was here to share all of her tips, tools, and strategies on um, being there for her father. Our show tonight was entitled In Sickness and in Health, A Daughter's Pledge. So I'm so glad that you joined us on tonight, Amber. We hope to have you again on our show really, really soon, okay?
Absolutely. I love that title too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, guys, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I hope you all have an amazing night. Good night.
Bye.